Friends, this is a comedy and romance movie released in 2023. And guys, don't watch this movie with your family, because there are some dirty scenes in this movie. So now quickly put on your headphones and subscribe to the channel. So let's start. At the beginning of the story, a girl comes to a cafe running, whose name is also there. She was very sick. She also asks the staff of that cafe for a bathroom, but the shopkeeper there forbids her from going, because it was the cafe's rule. Only the customers there could use the washroom. B buys something from there, but there was a line to pay. As soon as her number came, the paint got wet. B requests the shopkeeper a lot, but she doesn't listen and says we can't break the rule. In the same line, we see Ben. He sees B in distress and helps her. He tells her wife. B also understands and asks her to order a coffee. B gives her coat to Ben and goes to the washroom. Inside, she is talking to someone on the phone. Then his paint gets wet by mistake. So he starts drying it with a dryer, which takes him a lot of time. Then she comes out and starts taking her coat from Ben. But Ben asks her for coffee. And they talk a lot together. And they also have dinner together. And they go to sleep together. The next morning, he feels something strange. And she leaves without telling Ben. Ben feels very bad about it. Then his friend Pete comes there. He sees food in the kitchen and says to Bane, "Hey, you cooked food there, which a person can't take out of his life. He cooked today." Pete finds out. Last night, a girl came to his house. Pete starts bothering Bane. So Bane tells him, "It's nothing like that. That girl was just close by." But the wife hears this and leaves in anger. We see the scene a few years later. Ben and Pete go to a club where Pete's sister Floria is also there. Joby's sister loved Nia. Actually, they were both lesbians. She makes Ben meet her sister B. Floria says to Ben, "You know each other." So Ben says, "We have met." Ben and B start fighting over that night. So they start looking at each other from a distance. Ben says to B, "And what's going on in your life too?" B says, "You told me about a useless girl. And now I'm engaged." Ben says, "So when is the wedding?" So she says, "Don't worry, I'll send you a card." Now they make an invitation video together with the lesbian Nia's mom date. Because they were going to marry in Australia. B goes on a flight to Australia. But on the same flight, there was also Bane. Bane sees her and goes to talk to her. And he says, "Look what happened. We are both going on the same wedding." And she also says in the same flight. Because for everyone, thousands of flights don't work every day. Ben says, "You're not married yet. And I've heard, you broke up." B says to him, "Go away, don't eat my brain from here." That same night, B had to go to the washroom. So she goes there. But before that someone else goes. Then she sees Ben who was sleeping. And she has a cookie spread. B starts eating it. Then B's clothes get stuck in Ben's seat. B tries very hard to take her clothes out. But she doesn't take them out, so she has to take her clothes off. And she somehow takes her clothes out. Meanwhile, she gets saved from Ben by bumping into each other. And she hears songs from Ben's headphones. The next morning, Pete comes to pick them up at the airport. On the way, Pete tells them that they will all be together until the wedding. Ben and B don't like this because they both became enemies. After a while, they reach their home. Pete makes them meet Floria and Nia. And they go to the beach nearby. B and Nia take off their clothes and go to the beach for a swim. Floria tells Bane that Margaret has also come here, who was Bane's ex-girlfriend. Bane goes to meet her, and they hug each other. And starts talking about her past. On the other hand, we see B and Nia. B supports Nia for marriage. Then she sees Ben and Margaret. Nia says, she is Ben's ex-girlfriend. B says, this man is of no use. Saying this, they go out to swim. Ben and Margaret are talking. Then there comes Margaret's present boyfriend, whose name was Beau. Margaret makes him meet Ben. Beau tells Ben, "We'll have a lot of fun this weekend and drink a lot." That's when we see B, who's doing something on her laptop. Then her mom, Dade, comes and they start talking to each other. B's mom asks her to marry Jonathan. Jonathan is the one B had already broken up with. B gets upset hearing her mom and dad say. Ben is also looking at the photos in his room. And now they both go out for dinner and they meet. They come together to the dinner hall. Everyone is there and their mom and dad give some speeches there. And thanks everyone for coming there. And they all start eating. And Floria sprays the man parts of B and Bane. And these people play some nonsense games. And while playing the game, Bane and B fight. Because of which the rocket escapes from their hands. And it hits the flowers and catches fire. And Nia's hair also burns. So to put out the fire, Margaret takes off her clothes. And the fire starts to put out. Bane and B all get angry. All of them are sitting. Margaret takes off her clothes to put out the fire. And the fire starts to put out. Ben and B are all angry. They are all sitting. Then Floria's mom, dad, says, if B and Ben are put together, there will be no fuss in the wedding. And they make a plan. The same next morning, Ben is going to take a bath. Then Floria's dad and Pete talk. They say, listening to Ben. B loves Ben very much. But she wants Ben to come and tell me this. In the same way, Floria and Nia also go to B and say good things about Ben. Then Ben comes there, seeing which Floria and Nia hide. B says, did they fool you too? Ben tells her about Pete and Floria's date and they quickly break their bond that this is all their plan and we want to get them together so that there is no fuss at their wedding. Then Floria's mom comes there and tells them your uncle has called his glasses on the boat, you can go and get it. This was all their plan so that they could get Ben and B. Ben and B go to the boat while swimming, but Ben couldn't swim for too long, so he gets scared in the middle. B says to him, you don't look so weak. Ben says, I'm not weak, I just can't stay in the water for too long. B brings Ben to the boat and they pick up the glasses. Then B brings Mom Jonathan to the beach, who had a breakup with B. So B tells Bane, we are trying to get everyone together, so why don't we pretend to be one, so that everyone will be happy and there will be no fuss at the wedding. And who knows if we really become one. So Bane agrees, because he also wanted to burn Margaret. Still comes close to Bane. And those people pretend to kiss. But Bane kills him and leaves. Bane also goes after him. Everyone is preparing to go missing here. Then B and Bane come there and pretend to love each other. Then Jonathan also comes there. Bane meets him and says him how he came here. He tells him that his father has invited him. He meets them all. Bane says that he is a close friend of Maybe. Jonathan doesn't like him. Bane says to Bane that you act badly. Bane's mother says that I called Jonathan here so that you can spend some time with him. B says to her, it's good that you called him, but now I'm with Ben. And she leaves. As she leaves, she asks Jonathan, do you want to come with us? But Jonathan refuses. Then these people leave to go. On the way, Bane and B talk to each other. Bane also says, we have to do something that everyone thinks we are really together. Meanwhile, these people reach a tapu and start seeing the view there. Then B and Bane pretend to be romantic. And they act dirty with each other so that people can see them and trust them. But they're bad luck. They are looking at a monkey. Then B finds a spider in Bane. Bane gets scared of it and throws all his clothes away. And he becomes completely naked. And he asks B to look at him. B refuses to look at him. There's nothing there. Still, she checks her clothes. And Bane wears B's clothes. Because he threw his clothes down the mountain. That's where we see B's dad who is learning to dive. Then Ben comes there and says to them, I can teach you to dive. I learned it from my mom. Ben's mom was no longer in this world. Ben teaches them to dive. Then B comes there and says to her dad, Ben and I are very happy. And we're both trying to understand each other. That's why I was worried about Jonathan's arrival. Then these people leave. And now these two also had some feelings. And B asks Bane to take a bath. Bane goes to take a bath. Where he finds Bu. He talks dirty with him. On the other hand, he invites Jonathan B to play chess. And both start playing chess while talking. B's mom and dad are happy to see all this. Ben also sees all this and goes to his room. Then Margaret calls him. Ben's ex-girlfriend asks him to drink coffee. Then she starts talking about her and B. Ben goes to B's room after drinking coffee and says, we have to do this play better. There is a party this evening, so everyone leaves for the party. Margaret sits in Ben's car, and they reach the party location. Everyone starts going to the ship, but Ben stops to get her out of the car so that everyone can see them. On the ship, everyone starts drinking and dancing. Margaret comes to Bane and asks him how they broke up. "Do you know, I still remember that night we spent together." Bane says, "How can I forget that night?" Bane also starts dancing to a romantic song. After that, they go downstairs and pose Titanic. And everyone is watching them. And everyone is very happy. Margaret and Jonathan leave because Margaret still liked Bane and Jonathan came for B. Now everyone goes back to the party. Bane also says to B, everyone left and he comes down. Then suddenly B's tree slips and falls in the water. Bane jumps into the water to save her and goes to save B. B says to him, "Why did you jump? You can't even swim in the water for a long time." Ben says to him, "I couldn't leave you alone." These people see. Their ship went ahead. Then they see a rescue boat.